Across the enterprise, investment in AI is soaring, but adoption often stalls, which is pushing ROI down the line and making it harder to realize. On today's episode, we'll talk with Great Place to Work CEO Michael Bush and WWT's Chief Technology Officer Mike Taylor about that void between AI's promise and its payoff, and the role culture and leadership have in bridging that gap. Mike and Michael answer questions like, what leadership behaviors push AI from proof of concept to production? How do you move a workforce from suspicion to curiosity without glossing over the job anxieties that many people feel? And once you see progress, what kind of training makes those changes stick? This episode is packed full of practical signals you can look for to gauge your own organization's success with artificial intelligence. And by the end, you'll have a sharper playbook for how to sponsor AI efforts, communicate the why, measure progress, and raise the bar for leaders who must now be both human-centric and technically fluent, turning AI from a story you tell into a system you run. From Worldwide Technology, this is the AI Proving Ground podcast. Everything AI, all in one place. Let's jump in. Mr. Michael Bush, welcome to WWT GHQ, and thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Happy to be here today, Brian.
I've seen you talk a number of times, sometimes in person, sometimes in video. You always get me pumped up, so you got a high bar to live up to.
All right, looking forward to it.
And Mike Taylor, equally, you get me pumped up as well, so I'm excited to have you on as well. Welcome.
Happy to be here with Michael, and look forward to this topic and conversation today.
Absolutely. I want to start with what's an obvious statement right now taking place in the industry. It feels like we're in the middle of a paradox right now. Investment in AI from the biggest of the big companies on down the list growing rapidly. Consumer adoption of tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, or whatever it might be, skyrocketing. But at the same time, organizations are struggling to really drive meaningful adoption of AI in their businesses. And even further, it's so hard to get pilots out of that phase and into production. Michael, I'm going to start with you. What do you think that signals? You know, we talk a lot on this podcast about data strategy, cyber, use case prioritization, and those are reasons why some of these pilots fail. But from a leadership perspective, I'm curious what you think. What does that signal to the market from a leadership perspective?
I think with every transformation throughout history, when there's a new idea, there's a bubble that's created, which eventually bursts. But then the thing takes off. It actually happens. The bubble doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It means people get super excited. A lot of money moves. There's a lot of hype without a lot of tangible ROI type thinking, but it's necessary. And that's where we are now. So the bubble's getting bigger and bigger. Money's moving in a way that actually doesn't make sense. But one thing we all know is on the other side, AI is going to change the world that we live in. So we're in that phase now. Also, because we're all in a capitalist environment in terms of running companies, we are projecting that we are perhaps delivering more than we actually are, because that's important. That's what gets the bubble going. That's what gets investment going, which all companies need to break through and to have the innovation. So we're at that point now. And I'm fortunate in the work that we do to actually look inside companies and get a feel for what's actually happening. So I'd say we're a little ahead now in terms of hype being above the actual work. But people are beginning to think about, well, maybe I'm not getting the ROI because I have no idea what that means right now, but we better start doing something, because sooner or later, people are going to say kind of, where are the goods? And there's some great examples, Worldwide Technology being one of them, of companies that are actually already dealing with reality and making sure that it's getting applied at work.
Yeah. Mike, I'm curious, from what we've done here at WWT, what leadership traits do you think push AI projects over the finish line? Or even the reverse, what leadership traits maybe, help push back a little bit?
Yeah, prevent that sometimes maybe. I would say, just doubling down on what Michael covered there, anytime, the way we view the market, anytime there is change, anytime there's disruption, there is opportunity out there. And I think the companies, the organizations, the teams that are most prepared to capitalize on that are the ones who have invested in culture. They've invested in health. They've got trust. We talk about, conflict is good. Conflict is necessary. And organizations that can bubble these ideas up, bring them together into a cohesive or even a connected strategy are the ones that are succeeding right now. And make no mistake, whether it's the current AI trends that are going on, if it was remote work and all the things that we had to face there years ago, leaders who lead by example, who get involved, who spend the time to learn how these things are going to be applicable to their organizations, those are the ones that we see moving out front. And I'd say even with some time spent with Michael and his team yesterday, you're a data and analytics company, in terms of the core properties that you seek out and their ability to move and adapt in how not just they're collecting the data, but how are we looking at this? How are we using machines to interpret? At least at Worldwide, through your survey, we get somewhere around 1,300 pages of text-based feedback from our employees. How are we using new, unique, and differentiated methods to collect that, determine what's actionable, and go make a difference with it? But the same, I hate to bury the headline a little bit, but a lot of what we're seeing in the success, it's doing the same stuff the right way that you have been for a while.
Yeah. Mike, you mentioned great place to work, kind of at its core, a data and analytics company. And Michael, you mentioned, you're kind of constantly on tour talking to, the tons of companies that you interact with. What are you seeing in some of that data? Not that you have to have specific data points, but anecdotally, what are you seeing from the data as it relates to AI adoption and what's working and what's not working?
Yeah, well, one of the things we're seeing in the data, we've surveyed about 3 million people now over the last 2.5 years, specifically around AI. So one of our lead data scientists, Marcus Erb, realized, I'm sure glad he did, that we better start measuring. And so we did almost 3 years ago. We came up with a question set, and then we went to great companies we knew that were great. These are companies that we recognize as being the best in the world, to measure what's going on with their people. And what we measured was enthusiasm, whether they had access and adoption. Were they actually using tools, and did they think it was having impact on their work? And what we found out is in high trust companies, without trust, there's nothing. If you want to talk about how do you have failure in terms of human experience, you implement AI in a low trust environment. The fear level is super high. People do not have hope. They're not using the tools. Most of them don't have access to the tools. So that's one part of the world, which I would say, unfortunately, is the largest part of the world. And then you can take great companies where there's a high level of trust. And so while everybody's worried about their job, I've been worried about my job for my whole career. So this is nothing new. That's just a normal human fear. But whether or not this is going to replace me, whether or not this is going to lead to less income and growth opportunities for my family, those basic human concerns. When you have a high trust environment, that's at a lower level. And we measure trust. That's the business that we're in. And so when you've got a high level of trust where over 8 out of 10 people say, this is a great place to work, which is kind of our bar for that statement, Worldwide being way above that bar, one of the best in the world, then you've got 87% of your people saying we're excited about this. We're excited about it and wanting to try to use tools and getting access to tools, whether it be OpenAI, whether it be Copilot, Anthropic, et cetera, people making those choices and people being supported and encouraged to apply it in their job, not just for planning their kid's birthday party. Let's see if we can actually put this to work. And feeling safe that when they do that, there's not anything negative that's going to occur for them with that experimentation. Matter of fact, the opposite is going to be what happens. When you're in a high trust place, you can do that. Unfortunately, and we did a global survey, country by country, one of the things that shocked me is there's more access to the internet in Africa and China than in the U.S. From an access point of view, because in those places, everybody with a mobile device has access to AI. multiple cheap AI, low priced AI. So that was an interesting finding. And then the other one is this issue about trust and the experience that people are having. And from what we all know, that depends on who you work for.
Yeah,
Totally who you work for. If you work for a leader who you don't trust and you don't think trusts you, and they say use these tools, you're like, I'm not so sure. And so that's the barrier, and the opportunity. But in terms of AI, our view of AI is that it should be abundance for all.
Mm-hmm.
And to us, what that means is that everybody does better when everybody does better. It's not just some people. It's everybody does better when everybody does better. And we believe that if you care about people, you want that to be true. And you want not only cost reduction, you want growth. You're just excited about massive expansion of your market as you are about cost reduction. Mm-hmm. And right now, I think we're a little rotated towards just the cost reduction and the ROI part instead of just thinking about doubling and tripling the size of your market.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We talked a bit about this yesterday too. I think the moving people from a state of suspicion to curiosity in this space is going to be really important. And I do think many of the headlines that are out there, because I think this is what gets clicks and this is what people can draw upon, even in media news outlets, is what is the impact to the job environment? How is this going to change? And we'll get to some of this in the discussion. But I think a point that was just raised by Michael there that has really creating more curiosity within our customers and within worldwide has been this idea of how do these tools help us break through limitations that we have otherwise had in serving our customers, and rather than it being about reduction in job force or changing the landscape of the employment base, it's how are we using these tools to reimagine services and capabilities that we want to offer to people. And internally, I would share just a use case we struggled with was we have all this great intellectual property around technology and technology comparisons through the advanced technology, the proving ground that you've covered on the podcast here. What was really hard was to sort of democratize that information out to someone where the complexity and the nuances of those questions and answers is the permutations. I don't even know where they would stop. They're endless. And so machines being able to interpret language, that opened a door for us, essentially. Yeah. We said, okay, our mission has been how do we share this IP with the market, with our customers? And now we have a product we've developed, Atom AI, that can interact with a human being and say, oh, that is kind of what I wanted, but I really was looking for something more over here. And now we're able to bring that forward. That is reimagining a set of services that we wanted to bring to the market for a very long time, but had run into technical challenges that prevented us from being able to do it. And I don't know if we were a little lucky or a little good, maybe a little bit of both, that we started there. But I think that example is something our company and the employees we have here have been able to rally around and say, when we talk about new levels of service or new ways to serve and better serve our customers, here's an example we can point to. These are the things that we're talking about. Now, how do we go find that in all areas of the company and increase our value? And that generates more opportunity for people, within our business, not just in the near term, but over the long haul.
Mike, stick with Atom, or WWZ's AI journey. What type of human or cultural signals did we utilize to help drive that forward? Like, I mean, I'm sure you're going to kind of get into our culture, and our IML, our Integrated Management and Leadership Program. What really helped us push that forward, knowing that adoption is such a struggle for many?
Yeah, the first piece I would point to is in a high trust environment, you can say the wrong things and people still know what you mean. And some would argue I've made a career of that, by the way. But, in this case, it was about having a real intention with our teams to say, how can we imagine use cases that matter and how do we bring teams together to take it on? And I would tell you from Atom AI to the RFPA or RFP assistant, that we built together with our teams. There were moments there where we're like, are we going to make it? Are we going to be able to figure this out? And, some of that were things that we needed to organize internally. Some of this was the evolution of, GPT technology from the transformer technology from, 2.5 to 3, and now, up to 5 that we're using in conjunction with some of Microsoft's platforms there. But all of those things together, we had difficult conversations on, are we going down the right path? Should we keep doing this? And I remember a meeting very specifically with our CEO, some other executive leaders, and we were looking at our technical teams. We're like, are you guys going to be able to figure this out? And we had a very blunt and direct conversation. And I remember the answer today from one of our data scientists. He goes, give me 2 weeks. I need 2 weeks. And we said, you have 2 weeks. And we got off that call and I was like, I don't know which way this is going to fall. And, sure enough, they came back probably in less than a week. So we think we got it. We think we can do it. So trust extended throughout there in order to see it through and make it happen. And, really proud of that team and what they've been able to do and continue to do.
Yeah. Michael, thinking about what Mike just said right there, what are the lessons learned that others can take from that story and apply within their own organization to help drive AI?
Well, I think what Mike's talking about is working in a company where there's a very high level of trust.
Yeah.
Both people trusting their teammates, people trusting people they don't know in the company, people trusting their people manager, and people trusting top management that they may not interact with as much. So we measure that. So we know that environment. That environment is very different from most work environments. And so just using the data, again, using this metric of 7 to 8 out of 10 people feeling like they trust the company, feel like the company cares for them, compared to the average workplace, which is 5 out of 10 people. Big difference between those two. And so when you've got that situation, you get to say the wrong things. You get to say things and maybe make mistake, and people don't attack you for it because they know what you're trying to do and that you care about them, you care about the company and the community as well. Well, when you've got that high trust environment, so for anybody listening, it's like you have to assess your workplace, and if you're not at a place where 7 out of 10 people are having a great experience and feeling cared for and want to commit themselves fully to the company, update your LinkedIn profile and go someplace else. Okay, because you want to be it. That work is so important, such a big part of our life. That's where you want to be. If you're at one of those places and you ask the question we ask, do you believe that artificial intelligence will create new growth opportunities for the company? It's almost 9 out of 10 people say yes at a high trust workplace, compared to 5 out of 10 people at an average workplace. I believe artificial intelligence will have a positive impact on my career. 8.8 out of 10 people say yes, compared to 5.3 out of 10 people. Management clearly communicates our plans for using artificial intelligence within our business, including saying, we don't really know right now. We're trying to figure it out. 9 out of 10 people compared to 5 out of 10 people. My company encourages me to use artificial intelligence to do my work. 9.2 out of 10 people compared to 5. And the final one, my company provides artificial intelligence tools that help me do my job better. 9 out of 10 people compared to 5 out of 10 people.
Yeah.
So 2 different experiences going on around the world in terms of working people. And so that's the opportunity. If you're in a place where there's low trust and kind of that 5 out of 10, you could barely implement Excel. Okay, some people will use Excel and some will not. It doesn't happen. And this is the difference between good and great. You can do business, but in terms of the kind of growth and sustained growth that you want, having customers with high CSAT scores, it's just not going to happen in that environment. And so this is the opportunity. And this is why we talk about at Great Place to Work, people first AI. We talk about it because we don't see how you do this well without having that great experience. But I know, not every company believes in that. But I think, we were talking earlier, and so Worldwide is a place that's pushing this. Worldwide is pushing this, and when I say push, it's not always comfortable to be pushed.
Yeah.
Okay, but if Worldwide pushes this and pushes the people where it's a little bit uncomfortable, it's going to be great for Worldwide, because it's going to enable Worldwide to lead and support customers, and to let customers know, because Worldwide's in a position where they can talk about AI and the implementation of it based on what they're doing, not theoretical stuff about, generally what could happen and how great it is. They can talk about it. And I know for a fact here at Worldwide, on a departmental basis, senior leaders have goals. They have like 2 things they've got to be doing, and they're held accountable every Monday at 7:00 to report on what they're doing. So I think they probably have a terrible Sunday, in preparing for that. But this is the reality of the situation. How many companies are doing that?
Yeah.
How many companies at the top are doing the normal things they do: earnings per share, CSAT analysis, free cash flow analysis, new logos, retention, upselling, expansion, budgets, all the normal stuff you do, and then you add an hour to that to do something you've never done before in your history, which is to talk about how you're going to implement a technology across the company. It's a short list. It's a short list. A lot of passovers at a lot of companies. When this topic comes up, senior execs leave. They delegate it. There's an AI team, but it's not the senior execs themselves. That's happening here. I'm sure it's not the only place, but I don't know another place doing it with this kind of rigor that's been doing it.
Right.
Okay, I actually made that commitment. And so, again, when your company's doing that, you have more trust and faith in what's happening and why, because you're like, it must be important. I know Jim Kavanaugh is in these discussions every Monday. He's not delegating it to someone else. It makes me trust and have more faith that this is important, and yes, I should commit myself to it. And any leader, I heard this from Mike and others yesterday in the time that we spent here. Any leader who's not doing this on their own knows they're not being a leader right now. They know they're not really being a worldwide technology leader, and they better get it going, or they're going to be called a manager, rather than a leader. So, it's inspirational to see. I'm inspired because I believe this is how we make the world better with AI. The other way, I think all the dark things come true. If you're not really putting people first and leading this in a way that they feel comfortable and inspired that things are going to get better for them and their families.
Yeah.
This episode is supported by Tanium. Tanium provides real-time endpoint management and security to protect enterprise assets. Gain control and visibility with Tanium's unified endpoint platform.
Well, Michael, you're talking about the executive leadership team, which meets every Monday morning. And Mike, you can kind of go into that a little bit, but frame up your answer in terms of what does that mean from an executive sponsorship perspective, understanding that executive sponsorship is one of the key traits to pushing AI pilots into productivity.
Yeah, it is. I think this is also just a sort of a continued flight path or trajectory, if you will, of just the importance of connecting technology to your business and the various business offerings that you have, whether that's on the go-to-market side in terms of the products you bring forward, or how you improve how you serve your own employees. We talked about a few examples with our HR team yesterday as well. But when I look at this, the number, and this is like the back to basic stuff as I think about it, the number one thing my teams, I believe, pay attention to in terms of what I'm doing is, where am I spending my time? What am I spending my time on? Who am I interacting with? And those things are the strongest signals from my perspective. Maybe even more so, regardless of what I say, is what do I do and where do I spend that time? And so, in a, somewhere in the front chapters of, a book on business management leadership is just, where do you spend your time? What are the topics that are important to you? Who are you interacting with? And I think that's a page that, we have taken very literally through a number of different changes at Worldwide. And and bringing that topic into our Monday meeting, where it's not just about the technology, but it's the technology, it's the business operators and the sales teams, and going through ideas, progress, and things that we're blocking to get these use cases beyond pilot into full production. The part that's been really interesting that I don't think I certainly did not anticipate, but have seen, is the lateral or the transferability from the internal use cases that we're doing to our customers and what they're trying to do. As Michael said kind of earlier, we know it because we're doing it, and we're not just doing it internally, but we're doing it across 20 or 30 different customers in terms of these use cases. But once you have one or two, there is a flywheel effect, both in terms of change management momentum, people who are seeing things and, oh, I heard this team's doing that. How do we get on board? How do we take that on? But that flywheel effect of momentum within the employees, but also once you get the data right and you get these things collected and pulled together, you may serve 7 or 8 different internal use cases from the same blocking and tackling you did in one set of data or one grouping of data. And that for us has led to speed. It's helped keep that initial momentum going. And as we all know, momentum's a powerful thing, whether it's working with you or against you. And right now we're privileged to be in a position where it's going well, and we're trying to share that more with the market.
Yeah. Michael, I want to go back to trust. I was reading a recent Wall Street Journal article that positioned a question. It actually might have been in one of their newsletters. But the question was, will AI break the bonds between big companies and their employees? And then they went on, they were talking about the Walmart CEO and some of the things that he's done in terms of addressing the market and their employees. It had to do with like training and things like that. Do you think that question is overblown, or is that a very real risk that the bonds between the companies and their employees are at risk here if you don't get AI right?
I think it is. I love the fact that people are writing about that, and I wish more people were thinking about that. I would say it's like when the pandemic occurred, and companies would call us and say, "Look, we have a low level of trust, and we need to build it quickly because we're about to go remote." And I'm like, "You better. Do you believe in prayer or lighting incense?" Oh, okay, because that's the only way now. It's too late.
Too late. Yeah,
it's too late. You can't do it now. Okay, but companies that had already been doing it, they went remote. They figured it all out. Did something, So that's the thing. High level of uncertainty, no roadmap, no books to refer to. How does a company succeed in that environment? It's trust. It's trust. When you have a high level of trust, you can absolutely do anything because you have a group of people who believe you can absolutely do anything. So I believe that is the issue. I think that Doug is an amazing CEO at Walmart. They're on the 100 best list, and a company that has a great leader who's focused on the people. And so one of the things that he said very recently is that, I don't really see our employee numbers going down. To me, by him communicating that in a time when public markets want you to say, I'm going to cut people, he's got a growth mindset. He's believing that these new technologies will come in and, the headcount will stay about the same, but revenues are going to go up. To me, that's the growth mindset. Now, that inspires me about AI rather than the opposite. CEOs who are like, leading with we're going to be able to cut 30% of our staff. That's short-sighted. That's probably going to help you this quarter. But cutting your way to growth, I want to see that. Okay, yeah. Cutting your way to sustainable growth. So, that's where the trust part comes in. And, if you've got a low-trust, bad leader today, that person's going to be horrible with AI. That person's going to be horrible with AI because that person doesn't really care about people and their experience. They also don't care about what's in the model. They don't want to check the model, and I remember, because I've been doing business a long time. I remember VisiCalc. I remember Lotus 1-2-3. These products that at first the math wasn't right. I remember those things, but was in an environment where if you were using those tools and the math wasn't right, nobody was going to chop your head off. Okay, they still enabled you to work through it, which you need that kind of trust and faith for AI as well. So. And I believe that there are two types of leaders in the world right now. There's leaders who are looking at using AI to replace people. And I come from Silicon Valley, where people are writing articles that they think are interesting, like the first $1 billion company with one employee. I don't think that's interesting, okay, because I don't see what's good about that. I'm more about what's good for people. What grows communities, what leads to safe communities, companies that care about schools, companies that care about water and air and things like that, because that's a great place to work for all. And those companies only exist that I just described when there's a high level of trust with the employees. So we believe trust is everything. And we believe this is a technology that has the highest level of fear attached to it that I've seen in my career. People didn't have fear about the internet. People didn't have fear about Excel. People didn't have fear about trains, another bubble that collapsed. Electricity, another bubble that collapsed. So, but this one people do. People have a fear that this one is somehow going to try and automate them and somehow going to replace them. They have that fear depending on who they're working for.
Yeah.
Some people believe those movies depending on who they're working for. But when you're in a place where people care about each other, people care about each other's families, people care about each other's aspirations, people want people to leave work at 4:30 to go watch their son golf. Okay, an environment, a company like that, you kind of know. I don't think they're going to use this thing against me. I don't think they're going to weaponize this thing. I think this place is actually one of those places where they're actually trying to make the world better. And high trust companies tend to do that.
Yeah.
You can look at it in terms of the impact they have on the community, the level of volunteerism in the company, retention. I was here, countless people been 20 years, 26 years, 27 years. Where I come from, Silicon Valley, it's like, oh, I've been here a long time, 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a whole different thing. I'm not knocking the Valley. I love the Valley, but I'm just saying there are different things in a high trust company. Walmart, people have been working there a long time, and you hear that freight companies, great companies, they're there for a long time because they make a commitment to their families. The second largest commitment, maybe their church, or depending on what they believe in, then their families, then it's the company. So it's really important, and obviously, we know in this room today how special that is. When you feel lucky to work for a company like this, and you want to stay there a long time. It's one of our survey questions. Do you want to stay here a long time? And I think it's like 9.2 out of 10 people at Worldwide Technology say, I want to work here a long time. You can't force people to say that. That's a survey question. When people are taking our survey, they pause before they answer it. You can watch it because they're thinking, are they going to commit their future to the place? It makes them stop and think before they respond. And when you can get a person to stop and think and go, I want to be here a long time. You now you've got an environment where actually, anything can happen rather than another environment that's trying to riff their way to greatness.
Right. Well, next time I take that survey, I will be sure to do a nanosecond. Yes, I want to be there a long time.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Mike, certainly WWT scores very well on the Great Place to Work survey, which is a source of pride for us. Mm-hmm. But Michael brings up something important, which is fear. There is a fear about this technology. And because we have a high trust environment here at WWT, we're probably more prone to jumping in with AI. But I'm sure there are still pockets of employees that have that fear factor. How do you, and by extension, the executive team, think about tackling that fear so that we can make everybody comfortable to move forward?
We talk about it. I think that the first thing we do is we allow people a platform to share those ideas, whether it's town halls we're hosting. It's, the meetings we're having week in and week out. We do listening tours where our executive leadership will participate 6 times a month. One of us is, on a call with 20 to 30 employees. And those topics here recently are around innovation, disruption, AI, workforce engagement, where inevitably, and we go through these in that infamous 7 a.m. meeting as well. We spend, 5 or 10 minutes kind of recapping what those are. Regardless of the topic, there is some component of AI or the impact of the opportunity for AI to impact those things. And one of the interesting pieces has been, again, glass half full, half empty. I'm more half full on this stuff than anything. And we're thinking about and have started implementing agents that help augment our management leadership curriculum. So someone who's new to the organization, where they go through facilitated training on our culture, our values, the concepts that we use around employee performance and our core values, but creating an agent out there where our employees can ask, maybe questions they're afraid to ask, their boss or even, their informal mentor around how these tools are used, or having role-playing and coaching conversations with these tools. Those are where our imagination goes around, and our execution, frankly, go around how these tools can uplift, evolve, and grow employee engagement in the midst of, in some cases, fear, uncertainty, and doubt on exactly where this lands. But we're thoughtful about those. And some of those ideas I mentioned, those came through those listening tours and different sessions and engagements we had. What if we did this? It's like, it's a good idea. Let's activate that. And, again, we've got a playbook where we're able to do that fairly quickly.
Yeah. No, I think having that kind of open discussion helps turn people. I think we used the phrase in a prior episode, FOBO, fear of becoming obsolete, turning that FOBO into FOMO, fear of missing out, and then, helping drive adoption of AI that way. I know we're coming up on the bottom of this episode. I want to kind of shift to the future a little bit. What do we think the future of great workplaces, Michael, looks like as it relates to a growing number of companies becoming quote unquote AI first or AI led? What does it mean to still be a great place to work for all in the AI age?
Yeah, I think it still comes down to trust. We'll still be measuring that. The way we're measuring it will change, but it'll still be trust. We'll still be trying to understand how you feel about the people you work for and the person you work for, the people that you work with, and the community that you and your colleagues live in, regardless of where you work. So that part of it won't change. I think what will change is we'll have agents basically creating the questions depending on things that are going on all around you. So it won't just be a survey as it is today. It'll be looking at all of your team's chatter, looking at all of your emails, looking at what you're accessing, the agents you're accessing, the information you're accessing, and looking at all of that to get a sentiment. Kind of a measurement of whether this person is inspired or not, whether this person is curious or not, whether this person is learning or not. One of the things that came out of our most recent study is that we think that in this era, the skills you have today are going to be obsolete in 2 years. So you're going to have to, it used to be you could hold on to skills, 15 to 20 years. Mm-hmm. Now it's going to be down to 2. So you have to be a continuous learning leader, in order to grow and thrive and add value. So I think that's it. I think that we'll be surveying the experience you're having. Do you trust your agents? Do your agents trust you? Do agents trust agents? All these kinds of things. It just kind of multiplies, but that's the world that we'll be in. But we're doing all those things to get, I think, an actual more accurate measurement on your experience and whether you're having a good one. And then from that, suggesting to leaders what they need to do. One of the things that's clear here is employees in a company where some people have access to Copilot and some people don't. If you don't, you're kind of, there's a message there. So we're like, do something about that. Do something about that. This access, is really important. Companies where people are being encouraged even forced to use agents in their actual work, people take that as a sign of respect and care. Even if they resist it, they take it as a sign of respect and care compared to companies that don't. So I think we have a 60-question survey today. Pretty sure in 3 years we won't have that. We're going to have a much shorter set. We'll be pulsing more often. We'll be looking at access.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be trying to measure through those things productivity. I think we'll be linking up with data systems related to performance so that leaders are able to know the linkage between this person, their experience, trust level, access, usage, performance, productivity, ROI. So it'll be a very quick line between trust and economics, to help leaders be inspired. And I think Mike and I spent time talking about this yesterday. That is a point that Mike made, that we at Great Place to Work have written the book on great leadership, literally. But we're going to have to raise that bar, because it's hard to be a great people leader. We know that. In addition to that, you're going to have to be technologically stronger.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to be more able at prompt engineering, for example, using the language of the day. To be great, you're going to have to be great at both. And the same, if you're really strong technically and you don't have these behaviors, you're not that great today. So the bar's going to get raised for everybody to no longer say, well, this is just the way I am. I'm really strong technically, and everyone knows I'm not good with people. We're going to call you a manager then, or a great IC. Mm-hmm. But we are not going to call you a leader, because you are not a leader, because a leader builds trust and gets 150% out of people because they want to give it. So I think we'll be rewriting that chapter on what it means to be a great leader.
Well, Michael mentions access being an important factor here, but even beyond access, training, making sure that the people that have access can actually utilize these tools. How important is training, and what do we think about upskilling and training and that whole kind of arena?
Yeah, that definitely on the training side is a contact sport piece here. We this is not something that we've taken a passive approach to. Like, hey, this on demand out there, just go kind of check in on it when you need to. We issued an AI driver's license kind of beginning of all of this that shared really with people general concepts of what AI and generative AI in particular were useful for, but also some guidelines around, when to use it, when not, what company data, what platforms, and the governance side of things too, which is very important. Where training really sticks is in and around use cases that people are going to interact with every day or a handful of times a week, at different stretches. What we were intentional about was general training on the concepts. What we are intentional and intense on is, as we're rolling these out with specific use cases and tools, how do we highlight how people are going to use that? And then they're able to reinforce it on some general basis. This stuff is moving so fast. I don't think we've ever been in a scenario where we're updating our training as frequently as we are, given how things are changing and evolving. But critical to, again, overcome maybe some of the uncertainty on how to use the tools or how to best use them. The other skill set that's been critically important is training on prompt engineering. Michael brought this up earlier in the discussion. I was with some of our teams in New York last week, and the sophistication of the prompts that they're using for data reconciliation, other use cases, is off the charts brilliant. How do we take the best of what some of those prompts are and make sure that engineering and those are getting proliferated out to the broader organizations? Another really important approach that we're taking to things there. So, consistent with the rollout, it's moving very fast. We have to be intentional about it, but make it and time it with something that's going to matter to the people that you're addressing it with, so it's reinforced on a consistent basis.
Yeah, love it. Make it resonate, make it stick, make it applicable to the day-to-day. Well, Michael's talking a lot about how Great Place to Work plans on assessing and measuring that Great Place to Work atmosphere. As you look into the future, what are you going to look at as it pertains to worldwide on, how are we going to maintain being a great place to work with AI? Like what kind of signals or hallmarks would you look for?
Yeah, our focus over the long term has been, how do you balance being a profitable growth company that's also a great place to work for all? And I don't see that, those sort of centers of gravity across those three things. I don't see that changing. What I do see though is the way people are going to get their jobs done, and the speed at which we're able to bring new and innovative services to market is going to operate at a rate and pace of change that is going to feel uncomfortable at times. It's going to be unfamiliar at least.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe uncomfortable is a stretch, but I'm sure we'll have some of that in there too. So I go back to how do we continue to do some of the basic things, and I say basic, not they're easy to say, they're very difficult to regiment and do, but these are fairly basic concepts that require intense attention to detail and commitment from leadership to go in and do. But I look at my enthusiasm from this comes from a point of an example I used with my team yesterday. All those out there listening, you too as well. Do you remember a time when you were on a meeting and somebody was like, "Hey, do you mind if I record this meeting?" Like 5 or 6 years ago, that was like an uncomfortable. You're like, "Well, shoot, what? Why are you doing?" What immediately was fear, right? That was the instinct everybody had.
Sure.
With it. You fast forward to today in terms of what just AI has done in a very simple use case of summarization and our ability to go back and reference those things. And I'm on the call. I'm like, why? We got to record it. We need to record it. We need to record this. And so that to me is an example where we start off from a place of fear because we don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe intent is suspicious. Yeah. Value is unknown kind of in terms of where we are. And you see how everybody, even external meetings I'm having with customers and partners is like, "Hey, do you mind if we?" No, not at all. Let's record it. It's good for all of us kind of thing. And so that little example of kind of momentum and mindset shift is something that I see now happening in 20 different pockets of the organization where initially these agents were met with suspicion.
Yeah.
Well, we have an order status agent. Well, I give a lot of order status to our customers. It's like, well, what if instead of doing order status, we thought about strategic plans to grow and add more value with that customer? As soon as those things hit the ground, engaged and motivated people, they take off. And I think the next, 3.5, 5 years, it's going to be a lot more of that than it is maybe what we've had in terms of the fear, uncertainty, and doubt over the last 3.5 years.
Yeah. Well, to the both of you, I know we're at the bottom of this episode. Thank you so much for taking the time. I believe, Michael, you may have even switched a flight on our behalf. So that is very greatly appreciated. And thank you for the partnership. So to the two of you, thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, big thanks to Mike and Michael for taking time out of their busy schedules to join us here in studio. From that conversation, 3 key lessons to consider. First, trust is the foundation of AI adoption. Without it, even the best technology struggles to take root. In high-trust cultures, people experiment more, learn faster, and turn AI into an advantage. Second, leadership time is the clearest signal of commitment. When executives make AI part of their weekly rhythm, not just a side project, it cascades through the organization and transforms ideas into outcomes. And third, training turns access into impact. Tools alone don't create value. Teaching people how to use them safely and creatively does. So make sure you're not just handing out the technology, but also investing in the confidence and capability to use it as well. The bottom line, the future of enterprise AI isn't likely to be decided by algorithms. It'll be by leaders who can align people, culture, and purpose around them. Those who do will turn the AI era from a moment of fear into a moment of progress. If you like this episode of the AI Proving Ground podcast, please consider giving us a rating or a review. And if you're not already, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And you can always catch additional episodes or related content to this episode on WWT.com. This episode was co-produced by Naz Baker and Kara Kuhn. Our audio and video engineer is John Knobloch. My name is Brian Felt. We'll see you next time.